So dear students, in this debate on subject-verb agreement, you need to review that what I give you. I assure you, having gone through that frequently and sort of gaining confidence that you can handle them, any question pertaining to this area, you would have no difficulty whatsoever in tackling that question. I would give you an exhaustive study on the types of errors that occur on this area. Moving on, still delving deep into this concept of subject-verb agreement, trying to explore other areas where there could be sort of confusion for students who have not revised things well. I would like to mention certain nouns that could either be singular or plural. So you don't have to be confused if you know which area, like the error may be lying somewhere else instead of on this domain subject-verb agreement, because both ways it is acceptable. And then again, it depends on the context. If you are talking, let me first write the types of nouns that can be treated either as singular or plural. The list is: that's a fish. Like that, you have another called trout. There are such nouns: sheep, deer, maybe aircraft, you have spacecraft, series, and this word means, not as verb, as a noun. Then species, the word headquarters, see, what I'm telling you is the list of the nouns that don't get any added form for its plural or don't have any subtraction from this structure for its singular. If you're talking about one fish, it is salmon. If you are talking about many, it is still a salmon, like group of that, what is it called? In fish, you have schools. So school of salmon. One trout, 10 trout. One sheep, 10 sheep. One deer, many deers. No, not deers, many deer. And then you have aircraft. There are like 10 aircraft in this fleet. Spacecraft, series, like one series, 5 series, means this is like the means that he used to pass the examination. And these are the means that he used to pass the examination. Again, species for singular, plural, the same. Headquarters, apparently plural, but it could also be singular structure, because it's referring to an area which is like general quarters, and for its singular purpose you use the same, for plural structure you use the same. So essentially it comes back to the structure of the sentence that gives you a clear clue as to which verb should be used there. If there is a numeral like plural number before them, obviously then you have to use the plural verb, because you mean to convey plural form of this structure. Let's say, and that's why I gave the heading that these are treated sometimes as singular, sometimes plural. To give some expressions, such as if I say this is an interesting series. If instead I use the plural version of this sentence, it would run like, these are interesting series. Noun remains the same. You don't change it into any other form. Now, how do we know that we are involving plural sense here? Obviously, this verb is telling us that. Why use this plural form? Only when there is this concept of plural structure. Otherwise, even singular form would do. That is perfectly all right to use singular determiner, singular verb, because the noun could be used singularly. These are, let's say, 5 interesting series coming up next. Now, no way can you say this is 5 interesting. Obviously, the subject has become plural. Essentially, you need to understand this list, that you don't put, if your examiner instead says, I bought 5 sheep, so your error lies with this structure, which has been further pluralized, whereas there is no other form. The same noun is used in its plural structure. So I bought 5 sheep. That's the area he would be testing you on most often. Next, we talk about fractions and percentages. This again confuses some students. I believe most of you would already be good at using this correctly, but let's revise that. Whenever you have any fractions, supposedly 3/4, or let's say 50%, that's talking in terms of percentage, and this is talking in terms of fractions. When this becomes a subject, your use of the verb actually depends on the noun that follows. So you essentially have to focus on this noun that is being used with these fractions or percentages. Anywhere where you see any of these two, you have to immediately rush to the noun to see whether that is a count noun or non-count noun. It depends on that noun. If it is like, let's say 3/4 of the evidence, you know this noun already as one that is not put into plural form. It's a non-count noun. Evidences we don't say. We have a fraction here. 3/4 of the evidence. Now the verb is to be used. Let's say the choice is was, were, false. Now, knowing that this is a non-count noun, you would use singular form of the verb with this. If the same sentence, 3/4 of the statements. Now, the noun after this fraction is one that is already put into plural form. That means it can be pluralized. And with plural noun, you use plural form of the verb. So your correct structure of the verb is were. Like if the sentence remains the same, it would run as 3/4 of the statements were false. Again, you can use this for percentages. 50% of the evidence, again, let's say, was falsified. Now 50% of the statements, you know it. Now your verb has to be plural by virtue of this noun that is used with percentages, were falsified. So every time you have any 1/3, 3/4, 75%, 80%, any fractions or percentages, your job is to locate the noun which is being seen in terms of these fractions or percentages and see whether that noun is count or non-count. If it is a count noun, obviously it can have plural form, and with fractions, percentages, plural would already be there used in that structure, and you would automatically use plural form of verb there. If instead it's a non-count noun, then you cannot put it plural form of the verb there, because you are referring to something which is being seen in terms of non-count noun. So singular noun would be a preferable choice. Not preferable, the right choice actually. So this is how you handle your fractions and percentages. Moving on, you have like different subjects that have two parts actually. So any object which is composed of two parts, it is normally in plural form. Like if I say tongs or spectacles or scissors, or it could be trousers, pants, etc. What is it? Basically, these are single objects but constituted of two parts. Now, essentially, if you make them as subject, if such things are used as subject, your verb has to be plural. That means spectacles, let's say his spectacles are on the table. Now, for all these combination of singular things, you use plural verb if they directly serve as subject. If instead you use this expression pair, which can be done, like I say, the pair of scissors is needed. A pair of scissors, let's say. A pair of scissors is needed. We have used singular verb. Why? Because your subject is now a pair, not scissors itself. So whenever you use this structure, or whenever you see a structure that has this expression there, a pair of, then despite a noun that routinely or normally requires a plural verb, you would be using singular verb. However, if any of those serves directly as subject, your verb has to be plural. Next that you need to see is a debate on determiners. There are plenty. Let me mention some. And the first one is some, then any, all, no. Now, again, when you have to use your verb, that depends again on the subject that follows. Like some evidence was valid. Some, let's say, books are good. Here, this determiner is the same, but this verb is changing structure based on the nouns that follow. This being non-count noun, on the pattern of our previous debate where we talked in terms of fractions and percentages. We have like non-count noun, then singular verb. We have a count noun, plural verb. It happens with all of these. You have heard this, all is well, all are invited. Concept here is of more than one, so plural. Their adverb shows a situation, a thing which is considered non-count in that context, so singular verb. Again, no statements are produced as an evidence, so no statements are, no evidence is proved in the statements, so no evidence is. This is again with regard to certain determiners like dear students, on the pattern of those determiners, there are more determiners that have by and large the same rule. Like if I write none or neither or either, either or either, these are a few that you need to see. Let me make some statements here. None of the evidence was true. None of the statements were true. So again, determiners have this essential requirement that you be focused on the noun that follows. And seeing that as a non-count noun, you use singular verb. Seeing that as a count noun, you use plural verb. See, if I say neither statement. Now you cannot say statements. So this determiner, when it is used as indefinite pronoun, it is not, like it is adjective, indefinite adjective, let's call it. In this case, now if we say neither statements, students, I have mentioned some more determiners here. None, neither, either. Now these three, they permit singular use. Like when I say none of the evidence, this being non-count noun, we are using was. None of the statements, even then was is preferable. None of the statements was true. Your grammar requires this singular use with this expression none. However, functional English permits this plural use as well. But remember, none, neither, either, these are the structures whereby, irrespective of the noun that follows, singular verb is preferred. Again, if I say neither, you cannot have plural form here. You can't say neither statements. You will say neither statement is true. Now, if instead I put prepositional phrase here and I say neither of the, now you are talking about two things, and that noun would automatically go into plural form, and we would say neither of the statements. Again, your correct option is singular verb. Neither of the statements is true. Though, even if you say or, that won't be incorrect. This again is acceptable. But if your examiner gives this or and nowhere else you find any error and you have to spot the error, be sure that in his mind, this is the trouble. He wants you to go by the standard rules that with these expressions, when they serve as determiners, irrespective of the noun that follows, you should use singular verb. So neither of the statements is true, is the right way to go about it. Now, next our debate is pertaining to certain nouns such as people, fruit, fish, hair, etc. When I say etc., I mean to suggest that you better consult High School English Grammar, page 12 onwards. These nouns, they have their specific usage. Like this is plural, already we have understood that. People were wandering around. People is being used as plural. There's another expression which is not actually the plural of this. Instead, it means a different thing, which means, yes, very right, nations. Like if I say Pakistan and Afghanistan are neighborly countries, and the two people, again, people even can be used for this context, nation, but peoples essentially is only for nations. These peoples have friendly relations. This, no matter how many men and women together, are still considered bunch of people. When we say peoples, that is different nations, like peoples from different continents constitute United Nations. That means nations from different continents. Again, this thing, fruit, let's talk about that. Fruit in its kind, if it is of one of its kind, it remains fruit, irrespective of its number. Like 5 dozen mangoes, if you are referring to the fruit in the form of 5 dozen mangoes, let me change this sentence instead. It's not really giving you the concept. Hang on. Gentlemen, if I use the word fruit, it is one of its kind. Like if I get 5 dozen mangoes, 5 dozen mangoes is just one fruit. When I say fruits instead, I mean to involve variety. So he bought fruit in plenty. Actually, 5 dozen bananas or 5 dozen mangoes. So he bought fruit in plenty, actually 5 dozen mangoes. So that means we are talking about one of its kind. Fruits such as mangoes, bananas, and let's say oranges are liked by children. Now we are using plural form because variety is involved. Here if we say fruit such as, that would be wrong because we are talking about the variety here. Here if we say fruits, he bought fruits in plenty and you are just referring to one of its kind, that would be wrong. So you need to understand its correct usage. Talking about this third one, fish. No matter how many of them together, you would say fish. Salmon is the fish he had caught. Now, if there is variety involved, again on the pattern of fruit, like salmon and trout, or the fishes that team that are found in this pond, let's say, in this pond. Salmon fresh river ki. See, friends, fish. Salmon is the fish he had caught. Salmon and trout were the fishes he liked. So when do we say fishes? When there is this variety involved. Now see this last of this kind, hair. Any number of hair that you have, it's in a way non-count, and you don't put it into plural form, like she has luxuriant hair. We don't say hairs. However, this plural form does exist, but for a specific sense. And that sense is when some kind of counting is involved, like 2 hairs were hanging from his, I'm sorry for this awkward structure, but 2 hairs were hanging from his nostrils. Now, by virtue of this counting involved, we put this noun into plural structure. It could not have been done otherwise. Otherwise, it remains the same singular structure. Your hair, and see the verb singular. Your hair looks shiny, but it becomes plural, and the noun becomes plural when you mean to count them. Only a few hairs, so few is in itself counting, not many. That is to say, only a few hairs were on his forehead. So, is that a correct usage? And you need to learn better. Dear students, only a few things left now. We would talk about them and this job would be done. Subject-verb agreement. I understand and appreciate your patience and your keen interest in this domain. But if you keep practicing and the assignments I would give you, rest assured these things would come on your fingertips and no error would escape your watchful eyes then. Getting back to some more areas, 3 or 4. See, very familiar you are already that whenever there is a modal verb, your verb there has to be V1, like you can go, even if it is he goes otherwise, but because of this modal verb, this becomes this structure. And then again, if we talk in terms of tenses, all modal verbs, can, could, should, might, may, would, etc. You always require V1. Your verb has to agree by virtue of this modal verb in terms of its base form. Then again, there are students who fail to pick such structure when you have did there. Did he go? Then V1, though the tense might require something that demands past simple, and it is actually a sentence in past simple. Did he go there yesterday? You cannot use V2 because V2 has already been used in the form of auxiliary. So after all modal verbs, also after this auxiliary of the past kind, you use base form of verb. You have to make your verb agree not with the subject but with the auxiliary. Seeing that, you would adjust it accordingly. Remember, At times you have such subjects, playing cards, the common debate of gerund and participle. Here, if I say playing cards is fun, this verb has agreed not with this plural noun, but with this gerundal noun. Playing is fun actually. If cards had been the subject, it would have been cards are fun. These cards are not playing. It's playing that is in itself the subject. So your verb is this. Let me give you another example. It could be the case that a situation where both are acceptable, singular and plural verbs in such combinations. Like if I use this sentence, hunting lions is or dangerous. Now, if I say is, it is correct because I thereby suggest that this is my subject. Hunting is dangerous. If I say or, that is also correct because thereby I am making lions as subject and this becomes participle, lions that hunt. So see the difference in the two meanings. Hunting lions is dangerous, you are there to hunt them, and it is obviously a dangerous sport. Here hunting lions are dangerous. No, lions are there prowling and sort of on the attack. So lions are dangerous. Which lions? That hunt. There your subject was this. So it basically depends on the sentence structure, whether participle or gerund. If it is a gerund, gerunds have always singular subject, remember. And even gerundal phrases with plural numbers even. Hunting 5 lions. Again, your verb would remain singular. Hunting 5 lions is difficult, especially in a normal life. Then again, if instead, dear students, these words such as pair, dozen, score, 100, 1,000, etc. When you see them and they come after some numeral like 5 dozen, remember it should never be put into plural form. That would be incorrect. 5 dozen eggs were bought. He lived for 3 score, not scores, that is 23 score years and 10. So they should not be put into plural form when they are followed by, when they themselves have numerals before them like this, 5 or 3. So we don't have those plural structures there. Always mind it. Remember, there's another thing I would like to teach you on this domain. That is, there was a story where it was stated 5-foot long snake. Since these numerals do matter, see this noun here, foot. It's not feet. Why not? Because foot otherwise is a noun, but in this structure, this is the noun, snake. And when we ask which snake, the definition is 5 foot long. So this is an adjective phrase. Anywhere where you get any adjective phrase, your noun should not go into plural form. So if ever you are seeing this subject verb agreement and you might come across seeing a singular noun after some numeral, not realizing that that noun is not serving in the capacity of a noun, it's instead serving as an adjective there. If I say, let's say bookshop, shop is the noun, book is an adjective here. So you cannot have this expression bookshop. Incorrect. It has to be bookshop. And for that matter, let's say any other noun, drugstore. Drug is a noun otherwise. You can't say drugs store. That would be incorrect because adjectives don't have any plurals. When any noun is implied as an adjective, mind it, it should not be put into plural form. Apart from this, I have written some statements here, a sort of brief test, though formal test would be conducted later on the same domain that we have been talking about in our previous two debates. We have covered almost everything related to this subject-verb agreement. Some statements here, just see them, take your time and make sure that you get all of them right. If there's any problem, you can always ask. Read this first one. The news, next comes verb, surprised us all. What's your choice? Should the verb be singular or plural? Very right. News is a non-count noun. We don't say news is, and it always takes a singular verb. Good on that. Let's move to the second. The company's headquarters, apparently plural version, may even be plural. Let me not help you on that account. You take your choice. Has or have been moved to Lahore. Now this headquarters have been moved or has been moved. Remember the rule? Could have been used in both forms, but grammar advocates this structure to be treated as singular because it's talking about an office actually, or many offices in the form of one block or one system headquarters. So the company's headquarters has been moved to Lahore. If there had been this reference, the company has two headquarters. Now, two headquarters have been launched this year for this company. So could have been plural as well, but in such structures, go for the singular verb. This noun, collective, as well as in another category I told you how to handle such nouns. Verb, has or have, just issued a statement. So you have to see that this statement has been issued by the entire institution as a collective entity, one single unit, or it is talking about some individuals. Evident, very clear that not all are issuing this statement. And again, it is representing a given police station maybe. So we would use plural form here. The police have just issued a statement. Another sentence using this word neither and then nor, that means correlative conjunction. You should remember the rule. Wherever you get a correlative conjunction, your legitimate subject is which one? Yes. The subject closest to the place where you need to use the right form of verb. Which is that subject here? My brother. Forget about the first unit then. If my brother is the subject, should it be approves or approve? Yes. Neither my parents nor my brother approves of my decision. Next, you have none as subject. Then you have this prepositional phrase of these points. None as a subject, remember, could take, considering this plural form, this structure, but our preferable usage is treating neither and none as subjects, singular. So none of these points was valid, preferable. Though were valid is acceptable. This is name of a country, apparently in plural form, doesn't matter, with reference to that law that states names of countries in plural form should take singular verb. So singular verb. The Philippines lies in Southeast Asia. Here you have a collective noun. You have this determiner there, each. Your verb choice is consists or consist, and you have 4 individuals, reference to a bit complex, maybe tricky for some who don't think in terms of this segment. Each committee, what are we talking about? Individuals or the institution? Obviously the institution. Each committee, no matter how many individuals are there, but we are focused on this subject, committee. So each committee consists of 4 individuals. Now, see this one. The planning committee, chahe says is or, meeting tomorrow. Do we have committee as a subject, like in the form of an institution, or we are referring to individuals who are members of that committee? Say please. Very right. I trust you people actually. You may not be right even then, I would say. Very right. The planning committee, essentially you are talking about individuals now, are meeting tomorrow because members would get together to meet. So activity of the members is under discussion here. This comes as a percentage issue. We have to see the noun next, which is used with it. Since this is a non-count noun, waste, we don't say waste. So non-count noun takes singular verb. Only 50% of the waste is recycled. Correct. This has problems at 2 or 3 areas maybe. Do we need to begin with this auxiliary or this? Since everyone is the subject, it should be does everyone remember? Cannot be this. Does everyone remember? Now everyone, when referred back to in terms of his or her or their, I told you both are correct. Preferable choice is obviously his or her, but you could even say their test score. So does everyone remember his or her test score? That is your standard answer. Next, if you see my life and my wife, this is and principle, and you have to see this apparently compound structure in terms of its single unit or double unit. Like my life, is it this itself or it is some other entity? Obviously when we are referring to some individuals approaching somewhere, we are talking this in terms of idiomatic sense, that the same person is my life and same is the wife. So my life and my wife has a right, not have. Thank you very much indeed. It has been great interacting with you, and I really want you to give it a go. Maybe after this long time you have to take a walk to refresh yourself, but come back and revisit these things to see whether you understand them or not. If you have any problem in the process, find some time to consult, like you can drop in your questions. I would definitely respond to them to help you achieve your desired results. Last time when we were talking about subject-verb agreement, you saw that the stipulated time we had was not enough to complete that particular topic. Now to get into the exhaustive study, it's the same topic, subject-verb agreement, and it's lecture 2. After having done this exhaustive study, you would have, inshallah, no trouble whatsoever. So follow me and learn for yourself. Let's begin.